Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to continue our conversation about preppers versus homesteaders. And again, this conversation is not to poke at anybody or to get anybody riled up. It's just to have some good discussion here about some of the things we see out in the market that are just marketing ploys to get us to buy stuff and invest in stuff and kind of leave us in a state of fear. When we compare what preppers do and what homesteaders do, there's a lot of similarities, but there also is a lot of differences. And one big thing when it comes to preparedness is how to cook your food. And if you see a lot of these, saw one just the other day on one of the homesteading forums on Facebook, that a lot of people are using these solar cookers, and they're very cool. Don't get me wrong; it's really neat to see how you can cook your food with solar energy. I don't own one, but a buddy of mine has one. And the thing you see is, of course, the A, knowing how to use it, so there's a little bit of a learning curve. B, you need sunshine, of course, to be able to cook. And if you're where we are in the Appalachian Mountains, you could have sun, cloud. So I don't know how that handles if I'm trying to bake something in a solar oven, if it goes from hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold, if that's going to produce a pretty crappy result. And so you're in that situation, you're reliant upon the sun. And if we're truly in a spaghetti hits the fan situation, do you really want to rely on those type of things? Now again, it may not be the only source you have. It could be you could have a backup. But then of course, something like that has a little bit of a complicated element to it. So what happens when it breaks down or you break a piece? You need a part for it. Those type of things you have to consider. A homesteader, of course, knows how to cook over an open fire, or should at least. And if you don't, it's not that big a deal, but it's something you should try. It's pretty fun to do. So what are the tools you need to cook on an open fire? Well, of course, the big thing is an open fire. And another is your collection of pots and pans. And this is where we always recommend cast iron, because you can have a nice cast iron collection, and instead of stowing it away and say, okay, when I have to, when the economy fails and I have to cook outside over an open fire, now I'm going to drag out my cast iron. Again, the theme that we've been carrying through these discussions is use it or lose it. If you've got a cast iron collection, you should be cooking on it every day when you cook. Cast iron is great in the kitchen, just as good as it is out on the fire. Now, out on the fire, it's going to be a little rougher on it. You're going to have to clean it up better and keep better care of it. But you can easily take that cast iron from your kitchen out to the fire and even take it back to the kitchen if need be. If you got those key components, then you're really set. The only other thing you do is just convenience elements for your fire. Obviously, you can't just, obviously I don't have a fire going here right now, but you can't just throw a cast iron skillet down here in the ashes or in your coals and expect to be able to get good cooking. So what are your options? So the first thing I have that's pretty convenient is I just keep an old grill from a gas grill, from a charcoal grill that you'd have around your house. Once the grill kicks the bucket, usually the grate's still in decent shape. So I just keep it, have it hanging around when we want to do some campfire cooking. And all I want to do is just elevate it off the ground here. Now, one of the common mistakes people make when they cook over a fire is they build this huge fire. You don't need a campfire size fire to cook. In fact, the smaller your fire, the easier it is to maintain and to manage. If you think about it, the heat coming off a campfire is pretty intense, and cooking over a stove, you have a very concentrated amount of heat. So the key is to not build a huge fire. So when I build this, I'm just going to build a very small fire here in the middle and be able to cook whatever I'm cooking here. Now again, I'm just using sticks, granted, and logs. Granted, that's going to catch fire at some point and burn up. If you want to have a more permanent situation, you can bring stones in here. You can actually buy these fire rings. You see them at the state parks all the time where they have the drop-down grates. Those are nice. But the bad thing about those, it's not something you're going to pick up and move if you wanted to go somewhere else to cook, or you had to go somewhere else to cook. But those are pretty handy. And of course, there's even, if my brother was here and he had some of his 18th century stuff, he'd show you some of this really nice wrought iron stuff that the frontiersmen and the original homesteaders would have used. And we'll definitely have to document some of that stuff later on. But those things are made to travel. They would have traveled in the wagons or on the horses, and they unpack and they actually make nice little grills or grates made from forged iron material there. So again, it's pretty simple. So getting back to the comparison between having a solar cooker stove or solar oven versus just cooking over a campfire, to me it just seems pretty simple to say, well, let's just go out by the fire and cook. We've got basic utensils. It really is, it's kind of caveman easy. We've only been doing it for about 10,000 years, so I think it's pretty simple to consider. And that keeps you from having to buy this expensive equipment that you have to figure out how to use. You have to keep it stored somewhere and get it out when you need it. And of course, if it breaks, then you don't have that opportunity. So to me, this just seems very simple to just cook over a fire. So you can see I've just got a real simple fire here, very small. Obviously there's an extreme hot spot where the flames are, but obviously just spreading the food out and away from that. Again, if this was cast iron, you could put a cast iron skillet on here. You obviously want to shore this up a little bit better probably. But you can do cast iron cooking here, move it off to the side if it's getting too hot. That's where this grate really comes in handy. And again, this is just from an old grill, so something that you can put in the corner of the garage or the barn and have access to when you need it, and not really be in your way. But what a great way. And again, what great flavor. To me, I think food cooked on an open fire tastes 10 times better than cooked inside on gas. So this is how we do it, and we love it. We like to spend as much time out doing this as possible.